Alright, appears to be recording, even though I'm rendering a video, which isn't a great idea to do the two things at the same time. But anyway, okay, economics video for Vlogger Dome. And hopefully it'll provoke or be a starting point for some sort of conversation, this general idea of what economies are, what money is, how the game is to be played, what's the efficiencies. And so I am going to talk a little bit about things like copyright and patent law as an example of huge inefficiencies where capitalism goes way too far and produces no productive good. So instead of creating rational incentives, they create preposterously irrational incentives that are way in excess of what's necessary to protect or to encourage creativity, and we gain nothing from it except waste. So anyway, the basic idea is that the economy is made out of value. Okay, you do labor that creates something of value. You work, you build to make something, or there's value inherent in some things like oil or some other kinds of things that just exist. A diamond, for example. But there's always value in terms of the labor required to get the diamond out of the ground, or the gold, or whatever it is that gives it value. So anyway, but the real value is in the basic commodities, the food, the energy, transportation, the things that most people use, the products that most people consume. And there's value in people working to make those things, and there's very little value in people working to do things that produce nothing, like bureaucracies. Like if you get rid of people who are just shoveling paper that doesn't need to be shuffled because a machine could do it, yeah, there's huge productivity in preventing humans from having to do work that is of no value intrinsically. I mean, the end result is the value. The thing they produce is the value. The fact that your garbage is taken away is the value. And the fact is a person has to be involved in doing that in most cases. All right, how to explain this? All right, so we have this economy where we base, where control is a function of ownership. And so most of our businesses and most of the economy is owned by people, and they're collecting a profit for their ownership. And I really don't want to get into the whole tax policy thing, but the point is people are gleaning profit, okay, off of that ownership, and they're paying less tax on that profit than workers are paying tax on their labor, which is a rational equation. You just say, well, what's going to happen if you're taxing wealth acquisition through non-work at the same rate, at a lower rate or half the rate you're taxing labor, then yeah, you're going to have more loafers and less laborers. You're going to have more income derived through loafing than laboring. So it's a wrong incentive. So getting to the subject, like I say, one of the subjects will be, I'll do videos on, is copyright and patent law, which are completely preposterous. All we want to do with the law is protect intellectual property. We want to protect the idea that you invent something and you're entitled to a profit for doing it. You're entitled to get rewarded for being innovative, for taking the time to do 2 or 3 years of experiments in your basement or some other garbage. And so you should be rewarded for that. But the point is, it should be rewarded within a rational context. We don't need to have a $10 trillion lottery to get people to buy tickets. We only need a $1 billion lottery to get people to buy tickets, or a $1 million lottery even. We'll get lots of tickets sold. And the point is to sell the tickets. Okay, the point isn't to spend a whole bunch of money to the winner. The point is to find the greatest efficiency is in selling the most tickets, the most value in dollars, for the least amount of money you have to give back to the winner. That's the ideal you're striving for. You never want to have more incentive. You don't want to put more incentive carrots in front of the horse than it can eat, or than you need to get it to move. So if you can get it to move by only putting a half a carrot in front of it, then put a half a carrot in front of it. It's more efficient that way. Alright, so because lots of people think the economy is booming when people are doing a bunch of bullshit labor. Bullshit labor is wasted labor. There's labor that has huge productivity. Alright, I mean, You grow a crop that has obvious value, okay, because people can eat it. Somebody fixes the electrical infrastructure, huge value, quite obvious. Okay, how many people can benefit from that? You build roads, you build buildings that people can live in. A house, for example, huge, obvious, productive, lasting, long-term value. All right, for the labor that goes in, there's a huge amount of human comfort that comes out. A yacht, okay, has thousands and thousands of hours of human labor put into it, and only a tiny percentage, a small number of human beings will ever glean any joy or satisfaction out of it. And there's the extra cost of all the pollution and the other wasted energy and all the other nonsense that goes with even the functioning of this thing and the maintenance of this thing. More human labor maintaining something that only a tiny percentage of the human population will ever glean any joy out of. Whereas somebody who's a nurse at the hospital, or somebody who's a storekeeper, or stocking the shelves in the store, or designing a computer program that makes electronic transfers more efficient. Those people are doing hugely productive work, and we want to encourage hugely productive work, and we want to discourage wasteful work where, you know, some person just spends $1 million and it's wasted in one day. It's wasted on decorations and frou-frou and bullshit, and it's all like spent, like a fireworks display or something. It's just spent. It's just burned away. It's just wasted. It has no long-term enduring value. So let's understand that the economy functions this way in the sense that the rich are controlling the investment capital instead of the people. We the people don't own the businesses. We the people don't have the choice of buying things from a non-profit business or not-for-profit, one that just tries to sell us a good product at a fair price and employs people and pays them a fair wage. So the only people making money are people actually doing work, not people who own and expect a profit for doing nothing but owning. And then we have to understand that when all the investment capital is moved into the hands of people who are owners, their agenda, the way they spend some of that money, some of it they invest, and it goes back into the economy, and it stays in the economy. All right? But the part of it that they claim as ownership to entitles them to think they're worth a certain amount of money, and they'll buy huge estates, and they'll spend preposterous money, manicuring the lawn and shaping the bushes and doing all this other bullshit labor that's completely unproductive. I'm not saying the people doing it are dishonorable people. I'm just saying the labor itself has no value. It has no lasting, enduring value. Where somebody laid one brick on the Hoover Dam, that was, cement, one bucket of cement, huge long-term value produced, where this person, manicuring a bush, the value is gone in a matter of days, or it evaporates, and it has no value to society as a whole. At best, it can have value to a few idiots who are going to sit there and go, "Oh my, how beautiful my bushes look." I mean, it's nonsense. It's wasted labor, and all that wasted labor, we still have to produce an amount of labor that's going to produce the goods and services that we really need. And so the more people that are working for the goods and services we're getting, the higher the prices overall we end up paying for it. We're all paying for that in the end. There is no free rich person. All right? The money that made them rich had to come out of your pocket as a consumer. It doesn't come out of some other pocket. It comes out of your pocket. All right? You pay a higher rate for the electricity you buy, or for the food you buy, or for any other thing you buy. You have to pay more for it to aggrandize these investment capitalists who are controlling your economy and squandering billions, trillions perhaps of dollars on nonsense luxuries, on Lamborghinis and other crap, okay, where 10 people could have a functional transportation to get to work in. They just squander the money. Squander the labor, which is a more important thing for you to understand. It's squandered labor. All right, you're more productive building a $10,000 car than you are building a $100,000 car. It's just a fact. It's a better job if you can get it. How else to put this? So yeah, we don't need these rich people. They're the worst kind of welfare are the rich. They just sit back on their ownership and collect a salary for doing nothing. And a huge percentage of that wealth ends up being just transferred to the next generation, to a generation that didn't do anything to earn it, never did a day's work in their life, and they're just handed control over your economy. And you shouldn't find that acceptable or tolerable. It has no element of a rational construct. It's missing the fundamental thing that any kind of rational brain strives for, which is a fair fight, a fair game. It's a complete breaking and destroying of fairness. What's the point in that? Even Adam Smith argued against such crap because it just breaks the invisible hand of capitalism. It changes the balance of power. And it's completely a corruption. And so again, I get back to this whole idea of incentives. Incentives are rational. We should always want to incentivize good behavior and use carrots instead of sticks to provoke people to do the right thing. And we should encourage people with incentives to take jobs that are highly productive, that are good for the rest of society, that enhance all of our lives, that create infrastructure that makes it cheaper for us to have a cell phone or cheaper for us to have internet. It makes it cheaper for us to have the life we like, the life we need. And every time we allow some rich person to squander that money on crap, on personal indulgences, personal extravagances, housekeepers and maids and servants and all the other maintenance that goes into just keeping them functional, that's all wasted labor, and those laborers have to be paid out of the same money we have to buy all our services. There's no extra economy somewhere that can pay for this stuff. And so in the economy now, there's a huge backlog. The rich have gotten preposterously richer, but it's all on paper to the future. It's all a slave contract on the future. Billions and billions, trillions and trillions of dollars worth of labor, years worth of labor, okay, that we have sold to the rich in terms of a future promise. That there's somewhere in the future somebody's going to produce all this money, all this labor, to pay back this huge giant deficit that we've constructed. And we just secretly played a game where we're pretending we don't have the debt. They're pretending that there's going to be a future generation that's actually going to do this work. But it's all a pretense. So it's fake money. They all think they're preposterously wealthy. They think they own billions and billions of dollars. But all those billions of dollars are made out of the labor of a future worker. They're not made out of anything real. They're not made out of a real building or a real piece of property or a real anything. They're made out of a fake, phony promise that you can't keep because it would basically be enslaving the future. And it would be bullshit. So you're either going to sentence the next generation to work for $3 an hour or a peach a day or some other kind of insane labor value where you're going to basically enslave them to the rich, or you're going to say, no, enough of this nonsense. Let's have a rational economy where we, the people, are the owners of our economy, where we have a simple expectation. Everybody in the business works, does their job, okay, has a job description, all right, and nobody gleans a profit for doing nothing, for sitting back saying, I'm an owner. Well, let's finance our own capitalism. We, the people, own our industry. We don't need these rich bastards. That's the ultimate conclusion to this whole point. But anyway, to all these idiots who think the Fed's the problem or the money's the problem or some other bullshit's the problem, no, borrowing is the problem, idiots. And we did that quite obviously and upfront and in the open. Everybody voted for the stupid Ronald Reagan bullshit. Okay, so, borrow now, tax later. Okay, they've been cutting taxes for 30 years now and thinking that's a good idea. Deficit spending on purpose. They keep lying. Well, we're going to cut spending. Well, they never cut the spending, and they just keep having more wars, throwing trillions of dollars away down a black hole of shit. Waste. You talk about waste. There's nothing more wasteful than paying people to go to another country with a bunch of expensive hardware to destroy shit. You know, so then you can send some more people there to rebuild the shit you destroyed. I mean, if there isn't a definition of waste, that's the definition of fucking waste. And that's all we're doing. Our societies are completely broken by this capitalist ideology. And again, I'm not suggesting some sort of free loafer society where nobody does any work. I'm suggesting incentives for people to do better. All right, I'm not saying doctors should be paid the same as somebody picking up stones on the road. But what I'm saying is that we don't need to over-incentivize. You don't need a $1 billion promise to go to medical school. You just need $1 million promise. You know, so make it rational. Put limits on what you get, and make sure it's all earned, and that none of it's gleaned through some notion that you merely own because you have a certificate that calls you owner. Screw that. If you don't do anything, if you don't create anything, you don't produce anything, then you're not entitled to anything. All right, anyway. I want to get to the basics of an economy, which is just basically this trade of services, and that's all that's going on. And money is a perfectly good way to represent, to have a guaranteed contract. That's all this is. This is just contract paper. All right, it just makes it convenient to write a contract because this is a guarantee on future labor. Okay, because it's a guarantee on a tax base that's pretty reliable. And so this has value as long as you don't start printing it. And as long as you don't sit there and create these other pieces of paper called a bond, okay, that have the same value as this, all right, but they're not collateralized. That's when you have a problem. There's only a few $1 trillion of this stuff in circulation, but there's 10 times more of this stuff in stupid certificates and notes that aren't cash, but they have the same substance, the same meaning as cash. And once somebody tries to cash those in for this cash, okay, that's when cash is going to turn into garbage. That's when you destroy value. Anyway, the whole thing is going to have to go bankrupt, or you're going to have to force everybody to work for nothing. And I don't think the American people are in the mood to work for nothing. And they all have guns. So I just don't see how there's any other choice. There's one choice here. All right, get over your silly love affair with the silly rich. Let it go, okay? Lifestyles of the rich and famous. Yeah, let that crap go. And get to some rational world where you expect people to earn what they have. Jeez. That's a start.